Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know first $635 billion AI spending spree faces a reality check from the energy crisis, pushing big tech toward private nuclear reactors. We'll explore how this energy bottleneck is forcing a radical shift in data center strategy and could transform the future of AI infrastructure. Second $599 MacBook Neo with an iPhone chip marks Apple's assault on the budget laptop market, creating a major identity crisis for the iPad. We'll analyze why this pricing strategy is a turning point for the PC industry and how it could affect the competitive dynamics with Chromebooks and even Apple's own iPad. Third, South Korea's K-Nvidia initiative-backed startup rebellions with $400 million, a state-funded plan to achieve AI sovereignty and disrupt Nvidia's global chip monopoly. In this episode, we'll break down this state-backed challenge and what it signals for the global semiconductor ecosystem and the future of geopolitical tech competition. Fourth, another Starlink satellite explodes, creating a major hardware risk as SpaceX plans a 1 million satellite network for orbital AI ahead of a massive IPO. So we'll discuss why these unexplained failures are a material risk for investors and what this signals for the company's record-breaking IPO and its orbital AI ambition. Fifth, $1 billion investment supercharges India's Nxtra, sparking a Hunger Games for data center dominance against US tech giants Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. This discussion will reveal how this investment connects to the global land grab for AI infrastructure and what it means for the future of India's digital economy. Let's start with a single statistic that might just change your entire perspective on this. Big tech is placing a $635 billion bet on the future of artificial intelligence. That's the planned spending for 2026 from giants like Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, and Meta. To put that number in perspective, it's up from just $80 billion in 2019. This is the biggest tech gold rush in modern history, fueling a record run in the stock market. A while back, we called this the Great Capital Reallocation Trillions, shifting from headcount to compute, and we noted how the gains were concentrating at the very top. Today's number is the latest, loudest proof. But now, S&P Global is warning that this entire spending spree is on a collision course with reality. The conflict in the Middle East and the threat of soaring energy costs are creating a major hurdle for the AI boom. We previously analyzed how tightening export controls on high-end GPUs were already inflating compute and power budgets. The latest development is that macro energy shocks could hit the brakes even harder. And here's the critical connection. Those massive AI data centers require vast amounts of electricity. The entire digital revolution is completely dependent on stable power prices. Remember when we flagged the IEA's warning that by the end of the decade, data centers could consume more electricity than an entire country like Japan? Keep that in mind as we zoom in stateside. And the scale of this demand, it's truly staggering. We're not just talking about a bigger electricity bill. We're talking about the potential to break the power grid itself. In Virginia's data center alley, electricity demand is projected to quadruple from 2020 levels. By 2030, the state's data centers alone are expected to need more power than all US data centers combined just a few years ago. This is creating a very real risk of blackouts and energy rationing for other industries and residents. This is why these companies are already in a frantic race for cheap, stable power. However, if you zoom out, you'll see a new form of geopolitical competition emerging where access to energy is as critical as access to microchips. For example, Amazon has locked in a deal to buy carbon-free nuclear power for its data centers all the way through 2042. They are making decades-long bets on energy because they know their entire business depends on it. As we've said, energy is now a policy question, not just an engineering one. Washington even pulled a fusion energy CEO into its AI council, and the private sector is responding with long-dated power contracts. According to the head of research at S&P Global Visible Alpha, Melissa Otto, persistently high oil prices could force these tech giants to pull back their spending. The potential result? A really meaningful correction in all equity markets. We've already seen the pressure show up inside companies. Think of Meta weighing deep layoffs to offset swelling AI bills. So a broad pullback wouldn't just be theoretical, but that's not the whole picture. Oil executives are now warning that current energy prices don't even fully reflect the true supply risks, raising concerns about further increases that could ripple through the global economy. As Otto notes, A 30% jump in energy prices isn't just about the pump. It's going to hurt consumers and it's going to hurt companies. Layer that on top of the AI GDP paradox, we discussed a lot of spending with limited adoption and thin measurable productivity gains so far, and the margin for error gets even thinner. Interestingly enough, while everyone is talking about oil, data centers don't really run on oil. They run on electricity. And the price of electricity is much more tied to the price of natural gas and the state of our power grid. The reality is, the US power grid is old, with over 70% of our transmission lines being over 25 years old. So the real risk isn't just a spike in oil prices from global conflict, it's a surge in natural gas prices or a failure in our aging infrastructure that could shut the AI boom down overnight. Continuing our last discussion, chip scarcity raised costs and power budgets. A gas spike or grid failure is a different kind of bottleneck entirely, one that code can't fix. The euphoria that carried global stocks to record highs has now slammed into a hard truth. The world is discovering that the future of artificial intelligence isn't just about code and chips. It's directly tethered to the price of oil and the stability of the planet. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn, bringing us to a solution that sounds like science fiction but is becoming very, very real. Because renewables like solar and wind can be intermittent, how are these companies planning to get the constant, massive power they need? The answer, believe it or not, is next-generation nuclear power. Tech giants like Microsoft and Amazon are now seriously exploring it. They are hiring experts to figure out how to build their own small modular reactors, or SMRs, to directly power their data centers. That's right, private nuclear reactors for AI. This is how high the stakes are. The need for power is so great, they are willing to literally pursue the nuclear option to fuel the future of AI. We previously said this wasn't sci-fi, policy signaled it, and today the build-out plans are starting to look like inevitabilities rather than hypotheticals. From the massive infrastructure needed to power AI, let's shift our focus to the devices in our hands. Apple just did something many considered unthinkable. They took the processor from an iPhone and put it inside a brand new laptop. It's called the MacBook Neo, and it's a direct shot at the entire PC industry. An iPhone chip in a laptop. It's a move that upends everything we thought we knew about Apple's strategy. Now, what's fascinating from a technical standpoint is that the A18 Pro chips in iPhones and the M series chips in Macs share a common architectural foundation. Research shows that A18 Pro is built on the same 3nm process and has CPU and GPU cores that are incredibly similar to what you'd find in a full-blown Mac. So this isn't just about saving money by using a high-volume phone chip. It's a strategic test to see if the line between their mobile and desktop hardware can completely disappear. The bombshell number is the price, just $599. To put that in perspective, that's a full £500 less than Apple's own MacBook Air. This isn't just a new product. It's a declaration of war on the budget laptop market, a space Apple has historically ignored. So the thing is, this isn't just about selling a cheaper laptop. This is a direct assault on the territory ruled by Google's Chromebooks and mid-range Windows machines, especially in the education market. With an education discount, the price drops to just $499. For years, schools and businesses have chosen Chromebooks for their low cost and simplicity. Apple is now betting that for a little bit more, they can offer a premium experience, the power of the Apple ecosystem, and finally break into a market they could never touch before. And if you think a low price means a cheap product, think again. Reports say the Neo does not look, feel, or work like a cut price machine. It has the same quality aluminum body as its more expensive siblings. The screen is crisp and bright. The keyboard and trackpad are called best in class. But the biggest question, of course, is performance. Can a chip designed for a phone actually power a laptop? According to the first tests, the A18 Pro chip from the iPhone 16 Pro absolutely flies in everyday tasks. It sails through complex photo edits and is even capable of light video editing, all while delivering an excellent 13 hours of battery life. And the reason this is even possible is that the A18 Pro chip isn't some underpowered mobile processor. Benchmark tests show its single-core performance is almost identical to some of Apple's own M-series Mac chips. It has a 6-core CPU and a 6-core GPU, which is more than enough power for the web browsing, document editing, and photo management that 90% of people do. It's proving that the distinction between a phone chip and a laptop chip is becoming meaningless. This all begs the question, what's the real end game here? Apple has made some strategic cuts. There's no backlit keyboard on the base model, and the ports are a bit unusual. but these seem like calculated sacrifices. It's a masterclass in what we call product tiering. The lack of a backlit keyboard or having slower USB ports aren't just about saving a few dollars. They are strategic inconveniences. They are carefully chosen to make you think, for just a bit more, I could get the MacBook Air and have all the features. It's a psychological nudge to upsell you to a more profitable machine. But the real drama here is what this does to the iPad. This MacBook Neo is priced identically to the iPad Air. This decision brings a new budget-friendly option for consumers, but it also comes with the inherent risk of creating a huge identity crisis for the iPad, forcing customers to choose. For $599, do you want a real laptop or a tablet that needs hundreds of dollars in accessories to do the same job? The verdict is that Apple has proven cheaper machines don't have to be rubbish. For students or anyone on a budget who wants a premium experience, the game has completely changed. Apple has set a new benchmark with the Neo, and PC makers better take notice. Speaking of chip strategy, Apple isn't the only one making bold moves. A whole country has officially launched a project to take on a tech giant, and they're calling it the K-Nvidia initiative. A while back, we talked about South Korea's broader multi-decade push to dominate AI chips. This is the sharp end of that spear. At the heart of this plan is a 4-year-old South Korean startup called Rebellions, which just landed a staggering $400 million in new funding. That brings its valuation to over $2.3 billion. And here's where it gets interesting. A massive chunk of that cash, over $165 million, is a direct investment from the South Korean government itself. We previously analysed how this kind of state backing dovetails with Seoul's national strategy. Today's twist is that Rebellions is using it to scale its Rebel 100 platform, prepare an IPO, and gear up for a US expansion. Essentially, the K-Nvidia initiative is South Korea's strategic play to become a world leader in AI hardware. What makes this so different from, say, Europe's focus on AI rules or China's top-down state control is that South Korea is leveraging what it already does best. It's using its own established semiconductor giants, companies you already know like Samsung and SK Hynix, as the foundation to build this new AI champion. It's a public-private partnership on a national scale. And as we mentioned a while back, SK Hynix is not just a supporter here, it's the high bandwidth memory powerhouse building capacity in both South Korea and Indiana, part of the friend-shoring wave that tightens Korea-US chip ties. The mission is crystal clear: to nurture a globally competitive chip company capable of breaking the stranglehold of US firms like Nvidia. This isn't just about market share. Rebellion's leadership says the goal is to export their domestic success and build out AI sovereignty. And that phrase, AI sovereignty, is critical. It's about a country ensuring it is not dependent on foreign technology for something as vital as artificial intelligence. It's about national security, economic independence, and controlling your own technological destiny. Continuing our last discussion about the US, CHIPS and Science Act backing projects like Micron, the latest development is that Seoul's state-backed challenger is now stepping directly onto that same geopolitical playing field. The major battleground in artificial intelligence has shifted. It's no longer just about the large models powering chatbots, but about the incredibly expensive, power-hungry infrastructure that supports them. We previously analysed the memory crunch Broadcom locking in supply years out and Meta openly worrying about HBM shortages, and the latest development is that hardware scarcity is pushing nations and startups to design for efficiency first. After all, most people don't realise there are two different phases in AI: training and inference. Training is the heavy lifting, where you teach a model like ChatGPT on massive data sets. That market is dominated by Nvidia. But inference is where the model is actually put to work, answering your questions or generating images. This is the market that is exploding, expected to be worth over $90 billion by 2030. It's a perfect entry point for a challenger, and in a world we noted is constrained by scarce, expensive memory. Winning on power efficiency at inference is not just smart, it's necessary. That's exactly where Rebellions is aiming its attack. The company is designing neural processing units that deliver maximum performance for the least amount of energy, targeting a key vulnerability in the current market. It fits a pattern we flagged a while back: lean AI approaches that squeeze more capability from less hardware. So what is a neural processing unit, or NPU? You can think of it as a specialized brain designed to do one thing exceptionally well: run AI models. Unlike a general purpose GPU from Nvidia, which is a jack of all trades, an NPU is custom built for AI tasks. This specialization is how Rebellions can promise massive efficiency gains. The trade-off is flexibility, but for the high volume, specific tasks in data centers, that efficiency is a game changer. With a total war chest of $850 million, backing from corporate giants like Samsung, ARM, and SK Hynix, and a direct mandate from its government, Rebellions is now on a collision course with Silicon Valley. We recently noted SK Hynix's dominant position in HBM more than half the market a critical advantage when memory is the choke point. This isn't just another startup. It's a state-backed challenger aiming to redraw the global map of AI power. But winning the tech battle is only half the war. Rebellions will face huge geopolitical challenges, especially as it tries to expand into the United States. It will have to convince American cloud companies to trust and adopt a chip that was born from a foreign government's explicit plan to compete with American tech dominance. A while back, we talked about friendshoring SK Hynix, investing billions in Indiana and Washington's CHIPS funding for US-based memory capacity. That shows the door is open to allied supply chains, but it also raises the bar on trust, transparency, and local integration. For Rebellions, that's a very, very tough sell in a world increasingly concerned with supply chain security and technological nationalism. From a government-backed push to challenge Silicon Valley, we turn to a private company with ambitions that are literally out of this world. Another SpaceX Starlink satellite has just exploded in orbit. We've been tracking Starlink's scale-up for a while now, and this is the latest and most violent reminder of what can go wrong when you pack thousands of machines into the same orbital lanes. It didn't just go dark. A space tracking company called Leo Labs says it immediately detected tens of objects fragmenting off of it, creating a new cloud of debris. So, how does a satellite just blow up? The most likely culprits are technical failures that become catastrophic in the vacuum of space. One major suspect is something called thermal runaway in the satellite's lithium-ion batteries. On Earth, if a battery overheats, air can help cool it. But in the vacuum of space, there's no air to carry heat away. A small malfunction can cause a battery to get hotter and hotter in a vicious cycle until it literally explodes. Another possibility is a propellant system failure, like a leak or a combustion problem in the tiny thrusters used to maneuver the satellite. And this isn't a one-off. This is the second time a Starlink satellite has mysteriously blown up in just the last few months. A while back, when we laid out SpaceX's push to turn Starlink into an orbital compute layer, we said the entire strategy rests on ruthless reliability at massive scale. These back-to-back unexplained breakups put a sharp spotlight on that weak link. This latest mishap happened in low Earth orbit, an area that is already dangerously crowded. We're talking about 24,000 tracked objects, and about 10,000 of those are already Starlink satellites. This event is particularly alarming because of a nightmare scenario that scientists call the Kessler syndrome. This is the tipping point where the density of objects in orbit becomes so high that a single collision sets off a chain reaction. Debris from one crash hits another satellite, creating more debris, which then hits more satellites, and so on, until the entire orbital shell becomes an unusable field of shrapnel. These explosive failures challenge the idea that we can just let old satellites burn up on re-entry, because that plan assumes the satellite is still in one piece. SpaceX says the new debris poses no risk to the space station or the upcoming Artemis 2 mission, but the incident highlights a growing problem. A near miss with a Chinese satellite happened just last December. If that was just the appetizer, the main course is just being served. Because while its satellites are exploding, SpaceX just quietly filed a request with the FCC for a number that's an absolute bombshell. Approval for up to 1 million satellites. 1 million. And this isn't just about providing more internet. The plan is to create massive orbital data centers powered by AI. The strategic reason for this is to solve a huge problem for the AI industry, energy. Terrestrial data centers consume a shocking amount of electricity. SpaceX's idea is to put the data centers in space where they have access to continuous, uninterrupted solar power. Each of these million satellites would be a node in a giant floating distributed computing network. It's a move to create a global AI infrastructure that is literally above the clouds and outside the control of any single nation. We previously walked through why this suddenly felt thinkable. Reusable Starship is collapsing launch costs potentially under a couple $100 per kilogram, and the killer apps go well beyond broadband from real-time intelligence to climate monitoring to autonomous constellation management. And it's not just SpaceX eyeing this lane. Even Google's Project Suncatcher has been probing orbital compute. And the company's president, Gwynne Shotwell, recently went on the record with a statement that reveals everything about their ambition. Speaking to Time magazine, she said, "I'm surprised that didn't get more news. I thought for sure that would get a lot of news." Well, now it is getting news. So you can see how this push for a 1,000,000 satellite constellation happening right as SpaceX is reportedly about to file for a record-shattering IPO creates a massive question for investors. When a company goes public, the SEC requires it to disclose all material risks to its business. A pattern of unexplained hardware failures is a classic material risk. Think of it this way. This is like a car company issuing a huge recall for exploding engines right before its IPO. The company will be legally required to explain these satellite explosions in its financial filings, and how they address this risk could have a huge impact on the company's valuation, which some project could be over $1.75 trillion. And remember, we recently talked about the frenzy in private secondary markets around mega privates like SpaceX and S1 turns that fog of rumor into black and white disclosures. It puts the future of space, AI, and trillions of dollars in investment all on a collision course. While SpaceX looks to the stars for its data centers, the land grab for AI infrastructure here on Earth is heating up. A $1 billion investment was just injected into a single company to build the future of the internet in India. Now, for anyone who's not totally sure, data centers are the physical brains of the internet. They're secure buildings filled with servers that store, process, and distribute the data behind everything you do online, from streaming movies to running complex AI. Telecom giant Bharti Airtel just pulled in that staggering $1 billion investment for its data center arm, Nxtra Data, from private equity firms Alphawave and Carlyle. The deal instantly catapults Nxtra's valuation to over $3 billion. When we place a deal like this alongside the typical private equity playbook, a clear strategy emerges. When firms like Carlyle and Alphawave drop $1 billion, it's not just a bet on the AI boom. The playbook here is often about scaling a company rapidly and positioning it for a massive high-value exit in the near future, either through an IPO or a strategic sale to an even bigger global tech giant. But this isn't just about one company getting rich. It's about a declaration of war. Nxtra's executive vice chairman, Gopal Vittal, is on the record saying they're scaling their capacity to 1 gigawatt and targeting a massive 25% of the entire Indian market. And scaling to 1 gigawatt of power is an audacious goal because it's not just about money. A gigawatt is enough to power a small city. This creates huge real-world challenges. We're talking about immense strain on India's power grid, a massive need for water for cooling these server farms, and acquiring the sheer amount of land required. In fact, some projections show data centers could consume up to 3% of India's entire national electricity generation by 2030. So the question isn't just can they build it, but can the country's infrastructure even support it? Targeting 25% of the market is a bold claim because the other 75% is a battleground. This is where the Hunger Games begin. Nxtra, backed by its parent telecom company Airtel, can offer integrated network and data services. But it's up against rivals like Yotta Infrastructure, which is going all in on AI by partnering with Nvidia and, of course, the big American hyperscalers. But this $1 billion bet is just a drop in the ocean. The real fight is against the biggest names in tech who are all converging on India. In just the last few months, Microsoft and Amazon pledged over $50 billion for India's cloud and AI infrastructure. Not to be outdone, Google announced a $15 billion investment to build its largest data center hub outside the US, right there in India. The situation presents a fascinating duality. This convergence of local champions like Nxtra and global giants like Amazon and Microsoft is creating a dynamic that's, on one side, symbiotic. These global players are helping build out India's digital backbone, potentially turning the country into a global AI back office. But on the other, it's a brewing conflict over who controls the data and the market. It's a delicate balance between attracting foreign capital and ensuring local control over critical infrastructure. The reason for this gold rush? The explosion in AI. As one investor put it, India's data center capacity must grow significantly just to keep pace with the demand from hyperscalers and large language models. The Indian government is pouring fuel on the fire, offering a 20-year tax exemption to hyperscalers, making the country a premier battleground for digital dominance. This isn't just an investment story, it's the beginning of a massive land grab. But Nxtra has a secret weapon here. It's edge computing strategy. Unlike the massive centralized data centers you might picture, Nxtra also operates over 120 smaller decentralized facilities across the country. In a country with India's unique last mile connectivity challenges, this is a potential game changer. By processing data closer to where people actually are, it dramatically reduces lag and is absolutely essential for rolling out next generation services like 5G and real-time AI applications. It's a hub and spoke model that's perfectly tailored for India's landscape. Projections show India's data center capacity is set to rise 5-fold by 2030, generating an estimated $30 billion in spending. The race is on.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.